It's time for Drummer Nation. My guest is Aldo Mazza. We discuss his early years at McGill University and the origins of his groundbreaking multi-sensory group, Repercussion, which ultimately led to the founding of Aldo's popular drum camp known as Kosa. Now in its 22nd year, the camp has expanded to Europe, South America, and Asia. Aldo's outreach through drumming and percussion continues with performances and lessons as both participant and producer of major musical events. My conversation with Aldo Mazza after this. Sound Synergy's percussion care lubricants and conditioners include a series of 3 products for total drum kit care and maintenance. Percussion care products in your gig bag ensures your entire kit will always look and sound its best. Check out their website at soundsynergies.net.
I absolutely love playing drums, and I couldn't imagine not having that in my life. And I really, if I could help facilitate that and have an impact on your life so that you can play drums, that means the world to me.
The things that make for a successful gig vary, but when there's a drummer in the band, the drummer really drives it, and it all comes down to the stick. Ultimately, the right stick gives you the sound that you want.
Created specifically for practice sessions, quiet tone practice cymbals by Sabian are designed to respond and feel like traditional cymbals, right down to their clearly defined bell, so the drummers won't have to change the way they play. Quiet tone practice cymbals by Sabian.
Hi, this is Stanton Moore. I've been playing and teaching drums for over 30 years. My new site, Stanton Moore Drum Academy, is the perfect online drum learning platform for any level drummer to learn how to play the drums the same way I did. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you as subscribers on the site, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
Welcome to another edition of Drummer Nation, where today my guest is Aldo Mazza. Hello, Aldo. Thank you for doing my show. Great to see you again.
Hey, I want to say thank you for inviting me. This is a big pleasure and an honor. I'm glad you're doing this.
Well, the honor is mine. I happen to know so many people in the industry from my experiences having a cymbal company that I thought it'd be great to get these guys on interview, for players, educators, industry folks, manufacturers, media people, and many of them check many boxes, as I know you do. Let's do a little brief history. You're from Calabria, Italy?
Yes, exactly. And that's, for those people who don't know the geography of Italy, it's the big toe, okay? And right at the toe, and I was born in the mountains in some little village where there was nothing. And at 9 years old, we emigrated. And it's a funny story because we emigrated to Canada, to Montreal, because because of each country has their quotas and all of that. So my father, who was working in Switzerland, had to apply from Canada to get us into the States, and that didn't work. And I say to the States because my grandfather on my father's side used to live in Long Island, believe it or not. And he spoke English. This is before the First World War. And for some reason, my grandmother, they would communicate writing back and forth. My grandfather would say, okay, now you must come. Everything is set. I'm working. Everything's working really well. And he would receive these letters from her saying, no, you need to come back. I do not want to leave here. And that's it. You need to come. And then he did go. But then the war broke out. And he never sold he used to have apparently 500 acres of land in Long Island. And so when he got back, and he said, well, why didn't you want to come? He said, no, I've been telling you that as soon as you want me to come, I'll come. So what was happening is she was not literate. So a good friend of hers was writing the letters for her. So obviously her friend didn't want her to leave.
I'll be darned.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, that language thing can bite you. I used to do business in Istanbul, and it was really easy to say the wrong thing inadvertently, or to be misinterpreted.
No, but the girl would write the opposite thing, so that my grandfather, to all the drummers and friends out there, reading is good. You must speak.
We're talking music or reading in general? Reading everything, right?
Reading in general, but I was aiming it at music as well.
Yeah. So where did you end up growing up? In Montreal?
No, actually in Ottawa, which is the capital. And I was there until until I was probably 18 or no, about 19. And I was, at one point as a teenager, I started playing drums. The whole Ringo thing. I have the same history. Everybody we meet had the same story. It was like a script. And I remember sitting with many friends, including Greg Bizanet, who plays with Ringo. And I said, like, what did it for you? Well, everybody says that night on Ed Sullivan, Ringo played. The next morning, I'm a drummer.
All of us of a certain age share that history.
Yes,
or
they might have seen it later, or they're younger, or the effects, and then for me that's what did it, and it never really left. Then I started playing in a rock band when I was a teenager, and a number of rock bands locally, and one of them, by the time I was 15 or 16, did really well, got signed to Capricorn Records in Atlanta. The band had some hits. And in that short amount of time in my teenage years, I really had a great musical experience.
What was the
Just
band?
playing in bands.
What was that? What was that band?
That particular band was a band called the Cooper Brothers. And it was the beginning of the Cooper Brothers. And then they went on to do great things and had big hits. And it was funny because when we did our first record, I went to a music camp, and it was the Repercussion Symposiums back then, and I had been listening to some records, and I didn't really understand what was going on. I'm hearing Gary Burton, and I was totally mesmerized. I'm hearing Tony Williams, couldn't understand a thing he was doing, so I'm listening and listening. Meanwhile, I'm a rock drummer, didn't read. I was getting some training, but very little, but I was just curious and just couldn't understand. So I went to this camp, and it was the Repercussion Symposium in Madison, Wisconsin. And here I am sitting in a class with Gary Burton, who shows me how to hold the four balance. And then I'm in a class with Joe Morello, who's talking about trading fours. And I thought, what kind of business is that? So I'm learning all of these things. And then Carmine Appice was teaching, so I did the whole rock thing. And I remember him making the comment one day, we walked in, someone, I don't know, Joe Morello was in the class, and Joe strokes the snare drum and he says, "Was Carmine in here?" on the rim, because the rim was curved. Obviously, he dented it down.
Wow. Ludwig had a great lineup of artists back then. They still do. It's a great company.
Yeah,
but my first
and
clinic.
actually, that was the whole, which was, and I'll get to that in a minute. That was the whole inspiration for Kosa, actually.
Really?
That planted the seed, because what happened to me, I'm sitting in these classes with all of these people, and I was nowhere the level, but in my mind, I had the interest, and I really wanted this badly.
Sound Synergy's Percussion Care lubricants and conditioners include a series of 3 products for total drum kit care and maintenance. Pedal Lube, the only product specifically designed for bass drum, hi-hat pedals, and triggers, as well as all moving metal parts and drum hardware, safely removes grit, grime, and other contaminants while protecting against harmful friction wear. Cymbal Care restores and conditions cymbal surfaces without strippers or harmful polishes. Wear Barrier is a conditioning formula for all drum heads, rims, and even sticks. Percussion Care products in your gig bag ensures your entire kit will always look and sound its best.
So I met Maury Leishon of Frank's Drum Shop, who had a little store there, and we became really good friends. He invited me to Chicago before going back to Canada, and I'm running around the store, and then I went up to him and I said, "Maury, I really want to buy an M55, but I don't have the money." So he said, "Aldo, take the vibes and you send me the money when you have it." I was floored. I couldn't believe that somebody who's that much of a stranger would do that. So you see that in the book, Frank's for the Memories. There's all kinds of stories, and Carmine has a page in there. I have a page in there. Anyway, I drove back to, I flew back to Ottawa, which was, I drove back, which was like flying, with this vibe in the car. And from that moment on, I was so inspired. I split up with my girlfriend. I split up with I was leaving the band because I got accepted at university in Montreal. And everybody's calling the house, said, calling, asking my mother, what happened to Aldo? I think he's lost it. Something happened to him. So all these people are showing up, calling. And I was in the basement 8 hours a day. I was so inspired, Michael. It was unbelievable.
You got the message.
Oh, I was like a rocket. You couldn't stop me. I would go through walls to be a musician.
Now, well, so you began as a drum set guy and quickly made the change into mallets. You have subsequently taken on many of the instruments of the world, right?
Yes, and well, what happened was when I went to university, I studied classical percussion. So I got a degree at McGill, studying classical percussion. So I studied everything, and I got a degree, performance, a bachelor of performance in percussion, and I also did a double degree and a minor in jazz performance, which was unheard of at the time. And only at the end they realized that I had all these credits for 2 different programs. And they said, but we don't offer this program. I said, oh, I guess you do now. So I got a double degree. But it was great because I was playing everything, everywhere, and still playing a lot of drum set. So I was playing the clubs, doing the cabaret shows, reading the shows, doing the classical thing. And then I met the guys in my group, Repercussion, at the university. And that really grew quickly. By the time I finished my bachelor's, we began touring internationally and in a big way.
Hey everybody out there in cyber world, this is Adam Nussbaum.
Hi, Dave DeCenzo here.
Hi, Bermuda Schwartz here.
Hey everyone, Stanton Moore here.
Hey guys, Johnson Pesta here.
Hey everybody, this is John J.R. Robinson.
Hi, Todd Zuckerman here for the Drum Center of Portsmouth. They're knowledgeable, they'll be able to help you and guide you and make the right choices for you and the music that you play.
From Wingnut to Wuhan, these chaps know what they're talking about. Highly recommended. But what do I know? I'm a drummer.
Let's talk about Repercussion. Tell us what that band. First of all, I know about McGill because I taught for a year at St. Francis Xavier University in Antigonish, Nova Scotia, and you guys had quite a reputation then. It's a very good school. But tell me about Repercussion and what's that group all about?
It's a quartet, and the way it started as it was modeled after Repercussion de Strasbourg as a contemporary music group, first of all. But then the 4 of us, we studied, and I went to workshops with John Cage, and I was really into that, all the modern music. At the same time, I'm this rock drummer who went to jazz and percussion. So my palette, had been growing.
I see.
And then I didn't see the line. I didn't see the lines anymore. The lines got blurred, and it was nice because the guys in the group also felt the same way. So we started doing things differently. We hired a choreographer. When we went on the road, we had a lighting man, we had a sound man. We were like the Pink Floyd of the classical percussion world. And we, contemporary works, classical as well as rock stuff, and then we would write. So then we would explore everything that anybody was into. We would do a thing a la Weather Report, and then we'd do a Bach fugue, and then we would jump to an African thing, and we'd invite dancers from Ivory Coast to stage a part of the concert with us. So we were really crazy, and it was a lot of fun. We said, I don't want to be, a concert should not be like going to a funeral, So like they do often in the classical world, they play like they hate the music. Of course, inside they're all enjoying it, but nobody's moving. Everybody is sitting there gloomy, dressed in black. Reminds me of a funeral, right? And then we would just do these crazy things. The first time we went to our first Asian tour, which was, I think we were the first Western percussion ensemble that played in Asia, and certainly in China. We went to Beijing when the airport was probably the size of your house. And then when we went to Korea, there was somebody approached me and he said, we can make suits for you, shirts. And I said, yes, but we're leaving this afternoon. He says, no problem, we have it in your hotel. So we got tails done, because we did a lot of things with orchestras as well. So I said to the guys, listen, let's do something really different. Let's make our tails, but white, with shiny white lapels and all of that. with shirts that we can change the shirt colors to pink, blue, green. And so when we play, we'll stand out, right?
Like Cab Calloway.
Sorry?
Like Cab Calloway.
Oh, yes. So, we just did the music right, and of course, you have to be true to the music, but we had so much fun with it. We would come out with orchestras, and it's this white wash that comes across the stage, and the whole audience goes, "Whoa!" Back in the day, that was fun.
Good visual
So the
effect.
group with the four guys, we're still together, we still tour, but we used to do about 150 concerts a year, all over the world, just touring, and it was really crazy. And we used to carry all those instruments with us. Back. Now we just do special events and all that because everyone's got busy doing many other things.
Created specifically for practice sessions, quiet tone practice cymbals by Sabian are designed to respond and feel like traditional cymbals. Drummers will appreciate their greatly reduced sonic footprint at practice sessions, drum sessions, or anytime they need quiet cymbals. Not only do they feel like a traditional cymbal, they produce a distinct, clearly defined bell tone, offering drummers a much more accurate and natural playing environment. Quiet tone cymbals are manufactured from a tough, durable alloy that resists dents and stains while looking great on any kit. Quiet tone practice cymbals by Sabian.
Now, you also did a lot of recording for the CBC, right?
That's right, yes.
And what's
CBC was a mainstay. They would record us and also film us. We did a lot of filming with orchestras. We did a tour with Claude Bowling 1 year. He came over and we reorchestrated his the flute, the piece he did with Jean-Pierre Rampal, flute and his quartet. So we rearranged all the parts for percussion. We just didn't touch the piano. So we did a tour like that with him here. And we played with a lot of different artists in different contexts. And it was just, it's just a lot of fun, blurring the lines all the time. Because I've studied Cuban, I've studied African, I've studied hand drums, world percussion. And so has everyone else in the group done different things. So we just, whatever sounded good, whatever was fun and nice to do, or work with other people, we did.
That's what's so interesting about you to me, is you have your hands in so many different types of music, bound together by the fact that it's percussion. And they're also related. And you were doing this before a lot of people were. And nowadays it's sort of de rigueur to incorporate global percussion into everything. How did that morph into Kosa? Tell us about Kosa.
Yeah, that's interesting. At one point, we'd been touring for a long time. I'd been doing a regular TV show and a national TV show in Canada. My original plan actually was to move to New York, and I was studying in New York for years, going back and forth. And I started actually getting a name and doing some things there. But at the same time, I was getting so busy in Montreal. I was like 3 different people. I would do the classical things, orchestral things, and then with Repercussion, we would be off and running and doing our own thing. And I'd be doing a lot of studio back then. And then also the shows that would come in, I would be first call because my sight reading was good. And so I would do all of these things. But at one point, I had to decide the flying back and forth from New York to Montreal was costing me more than what the money I was making at one point. It just got to be a little bit too much. So then I said, well, I guess that settles it. It's not going to happen. So now living in Montreal, and then the group started winding down a little bit from all those years of 150 concerts, and everybody was so busy. So we wound it down. And then I sat in a friend of mine's house in Vermont, because I spent a lot of time in Vermont. And I was there with Johan, my wife, who I had just met. And I said to him, Peter, this is Peter Wilder, I said, I have this vision I've always wanted to do. Now that I've worked with all of these people, I've done all of this, and I'm a pretty good organizer, and I have all of these people's trust. I have this thing I've wanted to do a camp to replicate my own experience, which propelled me and inspired me with all of these people, meeting these people who were, I had no idea they were such nice people that would help you and guide you in every step of the way and teach you whenever you want, you know. And all you have to do is do the work and be serious about it and be professional. So I said, I really want to start a camp, but I want it to be in the Green Mountains of Vermont, secluded from anything. And I started describing the campus even. I said, there's a lake over here. We'd have our jam sessions. And then he said, well, you know, I guess you know Johnson State College. And I said, no idea. That's near Stowe. I said, no, never heard of it. So he said, get in the car. We went over there. And it was exactly what I had envisioned. To the T. I said, there it is. He says, you've been here before. I said, I have not. It's been in my head. So I said, who's the music teacher here? Who I can speak to? We went to see this fellow who was the director of the music department, who was a great Andy, a great jazz piano player who was stuck in this place. He was from the Bronx. And when I walked in the room, he said, man, someone must have sent you here, because although I love it here, I really miss the connect to the city, you know. So if you do this and bring those people, once I explained I wanted to bring, you know, the great guys in the industry and teach and be in this environment far away from the urban environment, he said, if you do that, that would be, for me, I could die then, you know, I'm kidding, man. And so we did. So that year we started it, and we started the first year we had Horace Arnold, Glenn Velez. Who else did we have? Well, Will Calhoun was there. Don Famularo. Who else?
I was looking at some of the rosters you've had there. Pete Lockett, Jonathan Mover, Horacio Hernandez, on and on. You've had such great drummers there. Let me back up a second. Is Kosa an acronym? Well, what does the name mean?
The name comes from, in Italian, the word la cosa, spelled with a C, C-O-S-A, means the thing. When we refer to say, no, è la cosa. So in Spanish, it also means the same thing. So this is the thing. So I wanted it to be the ultimate experience, the thing. Yeah, but then I said, you know, I can't use the word C-O-S-A. Cosa, an Italian doing a thing, it'll go the wrong way. So I said, we'll change the C to a K.
That's better for intellectual property anyway, to come up with your own spelling of things. You see that quite often, like with effects being FX or
right.
It was a good idea. Well, I had no idea where that came from. That's very interesting. Now, since then, I mean, how many years has this been going on? This is every summer for a long time now, right?
Yeah, it's been now 22 years. So, and every year we'd have, and it was a total percussion experience, Michael, because you know, for me it was important, a drummer, to learn some marimba, to learn some frame drums. So where can you have a place where you can sit with all of these great artists, whether they're Frank Epstein, Arnie Lang, and then you have Marcus Santos on Brazilian, or people from all over the world showing you their craft. We would have like 10 different classes going on at the same time. Jimmy Cobb, you know, in jazz, and we would have surprises coming in. One year, Neil Peart came down and we surprised everybody, for example. So it was that kind of an environment where you blur the lines, and it wasn't so much about reading, but learning. Like, this is the real deal, and we pass on the information. Whether it's Liberty DeVito talking about his experience, or anybody, good and bad experiences, you have to learn, to be a great player, not just a good player, a great player. You have to be an honest person. You have to be a professional. And you have to know the business also. You have to know that, you know, we are professionals, and this is a business environment that you have to take care of it correctly. You know, besides being on time, respecting people, and all of those things. So where can you do that in an environment with all of these different people, you know, from Steve Smith, you name it, and they have the time to sit with you. We had Jim Chapin there for years. He was a staple, until his last day.
What a great character. Yeah, I miss some of the characters like that we used to have. Freddie Gruber and those kind of guys.
Man.
So I Blur the Lines, I think, is what you said. I like that. That would be the name of the show, I think. You see a lot of camps that are specific, highly specific, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's really unusual to find one that's that disparate in its coverage of the
It's a lot more work, but I think it's worth it because I see it as, this is life. You want a global 360 experience. So if you're lopsided, you can't speak the language of the other very well. So I am comfortable in any environment, as everyone else should be. And then the fact of meeting these people who would open up their friendship to you, and if you're serious, for example, I would be, in my youth when I was studying in New York, I'd be sitting in a studio watching Steve Gadd or Ron Carter with him, and I'm sitting at the console, and in comes in this person who leans over to me and says, how long do you think they'll be? And I turn around and I say, I think this is their last take, and it's Harvey Mason. Okay, so he says, well, do you want to tell Ron I'm just at the Russian tea room across the street? And I say, sure. And then I tell him I have all your records. I really enjoy what you do. And I ask him some questions about some things. He said, listen, I have to run. Here's my phone number. When you're in LA, look me up. And they mean it. And then people you meet at the camp, this is what I wanted to create, where you meet these people, they become your friends or people who can help you go where you want to go, and in a friendly way, because we all need that kind of possibility and potential to have someone recommend us or to be seen or to have the opportunity just to be around some people, if you're serious, of course. And then these people become part of your friends, your people you work with, collaborators.
Hi, this is Michael Vosbein, your host for Drummer Nation, and I do the show as labor of love, but I could use a little help. If you'd like to be a patron of the show, please go to the site patreon.com/drummernation. Help us out. Thanks. Don't you think percussionists and drummers are more in tune with that than most other instrumentalists? I mean, there's a simpatico that we all share. And who else has a PASIC, where it's a 4-day drum levy?
That's right.
You don't see piano players doing that. I know with my show, I've never had anybody say no. No, Michael, I'd rather not do that. Everybody wants to help each other out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's about giving. And I tell my students, the first thing I tell most of my students, I say, listen, of course I will work with you because I will show you everything I have and I will give you everything I know because it's not going to go with me. And it's important for me to show you the right way according to what I see. Mm-hmm. And I say to my students, your most important object or mission is to be part of somebody else's success. And that might sound funny to you the first time, but think about it. If you do everything to be part of somebody else's success, meaning you show them that grip, that stroke, you show them that style, you show them this little technique that you come up with, you show them you own what you have. You can share, and they take it where they want. But if they become successful, then you become successful, and because you're part of this positive thing that you've put into the air. And in my own experience, anybody who's done that, I see them that they're successful people and they share, and the better. The more that they succeed, and supporting means you buy their records, you buy their books, you show up at the club, and you don't ask for a freebie, pay, because they don't ask them back if you don't pay, if there's nobody there. So supporting is a big thing, because then when it's your turn, they will do the same, and as they should, and we will. And like I show up places where there's a record launch and they're selling the record. And they say, oh, Aldo Mazza's here. No, you come in. No. I said, I'd like to pay and I want a copy of the record. How much is it? I think that's really important.
I try to do the same thing. Also, that support extends to the bandstand. Jamie Haddad, my dear friend, who I know you know, says...
he's connected as well.
Oh, yeah. He says, I like to make my job is to make the person on the bandstand standing next to me sound a little bit better.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
not to take the limelight, not to show off, but to make the music work and help everybody else. Well, I really like all this stuff. If there's a common thread from all these interviews is that it's part of the thing you touched on earlier, where you have to help people become musicians, human beings who play the drums and percussion, who have all that stuff together. Their business, their getting along with people, their everything. It's not just how you play. It's the whole package.
No, absolutely. And I think it would be a greater fulfillment, a personal greater fulfillment, if you just help others. Think that way. And if they're okay, then you're okay. It's not like if I'm okay, they're okay. No, if they're okay, then you'll definitely be okay. You know,
on or off the bandstand.
Or exactly,
On
you
or off.
have to be part of that, their success. Meaning the singer, you know, it's not about you. You are there because there's a good reason why you're usually there, but it's somebody else who it has to work for them, and you have to do everything to make it work.
Now, I know Kosa has expanded around the world, but I specifically want to ask you about Cuba. You are doing camps in Cuba, and you facilitate cultural trips to Cuba?
Yes,
First of all,
yes.
tell us, a lot of our viewers, what is significant about Cuba that makes it different than anywhere else and so important to drummers and percussionists?
Well, you said 30 minutes, Michael.
In a nutshell.
We're intending to do all that in 30 minutes. But so let's back up to answer your question. That's a really good question. Once we started 22 years ago the camp, then we started 17 years ago in Cuba. Did the same thing. I was curious, and we started finally a festival and a camp in Cuba with the top artists. So I'm facilitating there. And for the last 17 years, everybody from Changuito to Amadito Valdez of Buena Vista Social Club, and practically everyone who's anyone in Cuba now is part of this group that we have been helping gather. And it started with a festival, first of all, a jazz festival, a Cuban jazz festival of only Cuban artists. That was the idea. So we had Chucho Valdez, we had all the top artists performing there, and while the drummers and percussionists were there, we would have classes. So that worked out really well. So now, 17 years later, Geraldo Piloto, who is the kind of like the Steve Gadd, Phil Collins, and more, because he's also a composer. He runs his group Climax with a K. They're a 14-piece band. He's like probably the god in Cuba. Very well known, nice personality, an incredibly original drummer. And he's become kind of my brother in Cuba. He is the artistic director of La Fiesta del Tambor, which is the festival that we are patronizing and holding up and helping. In this festival, all along, it has a kind of three components. We have our camp during that week. We have all the people working with us. So now we have a warehouse of instruments. We have everything down there. And then during the day of that week of the festival, there's a national competition. People competing on drum set, congas, timbales, bongo, and bata. And of course, at the end, they win the instruments, but they don't have the instruments to give. So all along, we've been bringing instruments to Cuba for these contest winners, and that's been the deal. And we've had the festival in the evening, which has now become probably the biggest festival in Cuba. All the artists of all the disciplines, again blurring the lines, from traditional to the jazz guys to the timba, and all the great players, and everyone now, it's become like the PASIC where everybody comes in and shares what they've been doing, that kind of thing. And during that week, now we've involved, that's evolved into kind of where everybody in Cuba, in the percussion, certainly in the percussion and drum world, comes and shares. And also some of the companies like Sabian has become in the last 6-7 years very involved. And we've designed we've helped put together a program for the Cuban artists. So they're signed to Sabian, and now we found a portal, a way to helped the Cuban artists. We've been bringing instruments to the schools, the players. Now Sabian's been on board, and then Gonbops, because they own Gonbops, has helped out too. So a lot of the players now have all the instruments, and it's a big deal. We have a Sabian night at the festival now, for example.
Well, I'm real tight with Sabian. As you know, I sold my company to them, and Andy is a dear friend, and I can't say enough great things about that company and all those people there.
Yeah,
and that's not just because they bought my company. They're sincere.
Yeah, well, I remember when we were having some of the artists come out and we worked with you. That was great what you did, and of course they're carrying on that tradition. And it's what's the company called now?
Well, I started with Bosphorus. We named it. We started again as Crescent, and then we sold that to Sabian. And it's balls in air court now, but it couldn't be in better hands.
Yes.
With regard to Cuba, though, you also do cultural tours, right?
Yes.
Because I want to get to Cuba before, now that it's open, before there's a Starbucks on every corner. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I want to see the real Cuba.
I highly recommend you come, and I invite you to join. There won't be a Starbucks anytime soon, really, but certainly it's changing. And I've been there for 17 years. I go 7, 8, 10 times a year now, and you see the changes. But they still keep it there, and it's a beautiful oasis, cultural oasis, historical, and the music is just off the charts.
That's what I meant. Yeah. Being a little facetious with the Starbucks comment, but that's what I meant. Before it's changed and become something else. Now you mentioned we took a little while to hook up because you were preparing for a European tour. What do you have coming up?
The European tour is actually a little bit tied to the Cuban experience. We take school groups down and all of that, and we arrange 10 months of the year, groups, school groups, or any orchestras or anything that anybody who wants to have a specific time in Cuba, and we've been there for so long, we know everyone and how things work. In one of our programs, there's a pianist from Los Angeles who came. He's a composer, and he just felt that he really needed to know more about Cuban rhythms as a musician, because he's being asked to write film music or series, and he really was not comfortable. And I said, that's fantastic that you feel the need to learn this, and you come to the right place. So I hooked him up. We brought piano players in. He did the program with us, and then he went back. And for those of you who have a pen, you must look this up. Beethoven in Havana, okay? So, and it's on YouTube. He's got like 5 million hits now, and he's done a number of other videos. His name is Joachim Horsley, and I really, you must look this up.
Well, I'm going to get the spellings and all from you later, and I'll put it in the show notes. Along with the Kosa, what's the website for Kosa?
KosaMusic.com with a K. KOSAMUSAC.
Well, listen, I'm serious about wanting to go to Cuba. I'm going to sign on to one of those trips. And if I can do anything to be of help to you or Kosa in the future, just let me know. I'm down with what you're doing, man, and I can't thank you enough for doing my show, Aldo.
Thank you. But I just wanted to say, just to finish,
please do.
Have we run out of time already? This is too much fun, Michael.
Well, the reason they're kind of short is so that we can do you can come back. So you'll have to do another one.
But just to quickly finish answering that question, in Europe, Joachim Horsley is doing a tour now, and it's with orchestras, but it's classical, turned into Cuban, but something really, really interesting. I mean, off the charts. So we're doing some dates in Italy and France with this project, with his project. It just created. It came through the Cuba experience. And of course, we do these programs in China and Europe and all of that. And the whole idea is just to inspire. And we speak the language, and we all say this. Drumming is the universal language. Rhythm is even bigger on the planet, and humans are all the same. We all want the same. So imagine you go wherever you go on the planet. How fortunate we are to be able to play music, Michael. This is huge.
I agree.
Every day I wake up.
Yeah, I'm not the first to notice that every culture we've ever had on the planet has percussion instruments.
That's right. That's
so
right.
We're all tied together that way. It's a natural instrument. It starts with your hands. and we breathe in rhythm, and our heart beats in rhythm, and all that stuff. But,
right. Imagine, so you have this whole circuit around the planet, a global network of people who speak your language, and you just play, and that's it. Everybody understands you. I wanted to just throw that in.
Please do.
The book, Cuban Rhythms for Percussion and Drum Set, distributed by Alfred, 75 play-along tracks. I'm really proud of this book because it's going to be used actually in Cuba now. And these are, this is a big project that I undertook, and I think it was important for me to bring clarity also to the music and learning it. And this thing about Afro-Cuban is not Afro-Cuban. This is Cuban. They've invented instruments called congas. Well, the congas are really tumbadoras. We call them congas. Timbales, bongo. Those are born in Cuba. And these rhythms that were born in Cuba and what they do in Cuba, no other place, whether it's Venezuela, Puerto Rico, or anywhere, or Mexico, is the same. As great as everything is, it's really different. And most people don't have the opportunity to see how different it is and how deep and incredible it is. So with this book, I've been trying to cut through some of that and provide some clarity, and it's working. So
well, I'm glad you got to that. That's what I was referring to earlier when we were talking about the significance of Cuban music. It's one of the mother churches of rhythm for this planet.
Oh, yes.
Well, thank you, Aldo. Let's do another one, and I'll see you. You're going to be in NAMM, I presume?
Yes, I will definitely be there.
All right, I'll see you probably at the Sabian booth.
Yeah.
Or the party or something.
Yes.
All right, brother. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Michael. Keep up the great work.
This is your host, Michael Vosbein, and I'd like to thank our friends at Sabian Cymbals, Sound Synergies, Stanton Moore Drum Academy, and Drum Center of Portsmouth. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.